This is good old boy Mike from Sips, Suds, and Smokes podcast, and you're listening to Pop Goes Your World.
If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes. And while you're there, please leave us a rating and review.
And now it's time for our feature presentation.
I'm Chris McBrien, and the pop culture from Generation X is everything to me.
And I'm Derek Myers, and I'm here to educate Chris on the great pop culture of today's generation.
Episode 363, Contagion Movie Review. Imagine releasing a movie about a deadly global pandemic 9 years before COVID-19. Did Hollywood accidentally predict the future? Let's find out. Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Chris McBrien, along with Derek Myers. This is Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations. And this week, Derek and I are going back to 2011 to review the Steven Soderbergh directed film Contagion. But before we get to the movie, Derek, what is new in your world of pop culture, my friend?
Hey, Chris. Well, it's been a couple weeks. We took last week off. It was Canada Day, July 1st here in Canada, and Independence Day, July 4th in the U.S.
Take some time off, you know.
Yeah, a lot of people taking some time off. So, yeah. And in addition to just taking time off from the show, I'll be honest, I kind of took some time off from TV. The weather's nice. I've been doing things outside. So my list is going to be a little different than usual. I got no movies and I got no TV. I'm going to talk about books and music.
Oh, nice.
All right. So I'll start with the boring one first, the books. Well, boring to probably a lot of our listeners. I've mentioned previously that I'm listening to a series of books by an author named Craig Allenson. The series is called Expeditionary Force. It's a sci-fi adventure series about a guy and a super highly intelligent, artificial intelligent computer named Skippy. 19 books written on this series. I finally finished the 19th book this week. It's amazing. I can't wait for book 20 to come out. So anyway, I finished that and I was like, well, what am I going to do next? Well, it turns out the author has another series completely unrelated called Convergence. And it takes place on Earth. It's like set in the here and now. And it's about the only wizard in the world. It's a guy who can do magic, but since no one can teach him how to use magic, he just sort of fumbles his way through it. And we're not talking like Harry Potter. It's a little more interesting than that. The guy is wanted for a murder he didn't commit, and so he's sort of been on the run from the law for a decade. And no, it's really good. In the first book, he meets a talking dog of all things, which sounds bizarre, but in a book about magic, things happen. And it turns out this dog is like channeling the spirit of a 3,000-year-old wizard, and the dog seeks this guy out because he can sense he's a wizard. And so it's this bizarre happenstance in the first couple chapters of the book. But this dog is hilarious because it's basically the way the author writes it is the dog is still just a dog, except he can talk, and he can talk because this other wizard, his spirit is in him. But the wizard's spirit in the dog, for some reason, is having a hard time making his essence known. So really you just get a talking dog, and the dog constantly is just saying things like, hey, what time do we eat? When do we eat? And it's just, if you've ever owned a dog, which clearly this author has, it just is this level of humor in the book that is fantastic. Anyway, it's a great book. I don't think it's as good as the other series I just read, but the first book is called Convergence. I managed to get through it in like 3 days. It was a pretty fun read, and I think there's 6 or 7 in this series. So if you're looking for something to read, I would recommend it. Convergence is the name of the book. And then last week, one of the reasons that we couldn't do the show is my wife and I had tickets to see a concert. As you know, I'm a fan of 80s music, as I know you are too.
Yes, we are.
And a lot of bands from the 80s are now doing like sort of like a farewell tour. Like, hey, we're old, we need money, and fans will pay to see us. And they go out and they sing the greatest hits. And what usually happens is 3 or 4 bands will get together. It's like, I don't need 2 hours of some band that hit their peak in the late 80s. I want 45 minutes
and only have like
hits.
3 songs or something.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
makes sense.
So that's what we've been seeing more and more the last few years is you get like 3 or 4 of these bands get together and they do a tour. So we saw that this week. We had a chance to go to Niagara Falls, and the three bands that were playing, the opener was Alison Moyet, who was the lead singer of the band The Yaz, or The Yazoo, as they are sometimes known. She also had a fairly decent solo career as well. She sang all her hits. She sang all the hits from The Yaz.
Invincible?
She sounded
Wasn't that
amazing.
her song? Invincible or something like
Invisible.
that? Invisible, yes. I remember that from the 80s, yeah.
Which, believe it or not, she didn't even do. Which surprised me, because that was that was the sort of her solo song that I knew best. But a lot of people knew a lot of her other stuff. I knew all the stuff that she did from the Yaz, because I've always loved them. So she did it for good 45 minutes. Awesome. Put on a great show. Sounded amazing. Then we got to see Soft Cell. You know the song Tainted Love?
Oh, yeah, Tainted Love.
Soft Cell?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me tell you about Soft Cell. So they also had 45 minutes. We're not nearly as good. I gotta really wonder, how was Soft Cell as big as they were? I mean, one song can really make or break you.
They only had one song. They were one hit wonder. Right?
So I thought. I mean, they had a couple of sort of club hits and stuff, which they didn't even do. All I kept thinking was, and I said this to some people that were with us after, I said, you know, when you're in like college, university, and you meet a bunch of people and someone goes, yeah, I'm studying like modern interpretive music, and you're like, I don't really know what that is. And they're like, well, we're putting on a show at the local pub or the local theater next week. Come and see us. And you show up and it's like this weird multimedia experience where they have like imagery behind them, and they're like words show up on the screen behind them, and they sort of
clue what any of it means.
Yeah. And they sort of do spoken word and singing, and there's like music that doesn't really match the lyric, and you're like, what are we watching? And you know, they're just like, it's avant-garde, it's art. Like, that's what Soft Cell was like. I'm watching it going, wow, really? We paid good money for this? Okay. They did two songs that I recognize, one of which was Tainted Love, which was the one they closed with. Yeah. And it was great. I mean, it was great to hear it and all the rest of it, but I'm like, I don't know how Soft Cell was billed second over Alison Moyet. Like, she definitely should have been second. Her set was amazing. Soft Cell were like, what the hell is that? Anyway, and then the headliner was the Human League, who was huge in the 80s. Don't You Want Me, Baby?
Oh, don't
Keep
you
Feeling
want
the Fascination.
Huge song in the 80s.
Yeah. Now, I've never been a huge fan of Human League. I like them, but the other people, my wife and the other people we went with, huge fans. So my wife's a couple years older than me, and the friends we went with are even a couple years older than her. So I find that their musical tastes are just a little ahead of mine. They like some things from the earlier 80s that I was just a little too young to be into the same way they were. They love Human League, so I'm like, okay, fine, let's go see the show. Human League blew me away. They sounded amazing. Like, they sounded just like the record. Like, all these years later, sounded great. They look great. They put on a great show. The lead singer did like 5 costume changes, and it was all like, okay, I didn't come here expecting to see all these great costume changes, but it totally worked for what they were doing. The light show was great. Yeah, it was really good, considering that the tickets were very reasonably priced. The opening act, Alison Moyet from the Yaz, and the last act, the headliners, the Human League, outstandingly good. Soft Cell could have done without. Would have been a good time to go get a drink and a bathroom break, but no, it was great. Had a lot of fun with it. So I believe the show we saw was the end of their tour. They've been touring through North America, and Niagara Falls, Canada was their last stop. So you could tell they were like pumped. They've been doing it. They've been doing this show for a month, and like they really got all the bugs out of it. And it was really good. So I had a great time.
Awesome.
That's what I was doing last week.
Okay, I got something for you. I've mentioned before that I'm collecting Crazy Magazine. And I was something I collected when I was a kid, like in the 70s and 80s. And so I've gone back and I'm trying to collect them all. And I'm 8 issues away from completing my collection. So what I decided to do this week, because I'm on vacation now for the summer, Derek, I decided to kind of go back and read some of these. I was absolutely shocked as I was reading them. Oh my gosh. You could never put this sort of thing out today. First of all, I don't even think magazines aren't even a thing anymore, are they? I don't even think there's that. But the one that stood out to me was this issue number 69 of Crazy Magazine. So Crazy Magazine, if you're not familiar with it, it was almost like Mad Magazine was, but it was like the Marvel version of that.
Right. Like it was done by Marvel Comics.
Right. Yeah. And they really pushed the envelope in this when they did stuff. So this issue 69 I was reading, it has a parody of The Shining in it. and it was really offensive. And then there was this thing called, okay, so there's their like mascot is Obnoxio the Clown, and he's like this disgusting cigar chomping, gross, unshaven clown, and he's got this thing called Obnoxio's abuse column. And so in it, he says, we go and try and give publicity to a third-rate show on a third-rate network, and they turn us down. I wonder if these guys had normal childhoods. Maybe their moms dropped them on their heads when they were babies and gave them brain damage or something. He's complaining about NBC not giving them the rights for some parody they wanted to do. And then there's an article called 24 Ways to Upset Your Older Sister.
Jeez,
and
okay.
one of them is take the last can of Coke, drink it in front of her, then offer her a sip. And when she's drinking it, tell her you spit in it. You're going to do this
Gross.
to your sister? And then another one is stop at a restaurant, but don't go in. Tell your sister we can't go in because they don't allow dogs in there.
Jeez.
This is awful. And then in the middle of it, there's like a parody of Richie Rich, and it looks like the comic book, but it's Richie Wretch. And he's like this vile, disgusting human being. The first panel of the comic is him clubbing a baby seal. And then he gets, you remember Pee-wee and Freckles? Did you ever read Richie Rich?
No.
In it, there's his two friends, Pee-wee and Freckles, and they're poor. And in this one, in Richie Rich, he gets Pee-wee and Freckles to murder someone because they need the money. I'm like,
Jeez.
This is like for kids. And then they have Obnoxio the Clown fun pages. And it's like, oh, you can build a mobile of like bad guys you hate. And it's like Fu Manchu and Injun Joe. Like, oh,
Jeez, racist much? Holy cow.
It's just offensive as hell. And then the last part of Obnoxio the Clown fun pages is punchlines to my favorite jokes. And so here's the three of them that are in there. Okay, are you ready? That was no lady, that was my wife. The next one is hair lip. And the last one is everyone else just leaves her tied to the tree. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most offensive crap. And this is aimed at kids in the 80s. Like, just, oh my gosh. So that's what I'm collecting.
Wow. You don't let your kids read that, do you?
No, absolutely
okay.
not.
Good.
No, but I thought, like, I remember the Crazy Magazine as being like the Mad Magazine, of Marvel. Mm-hmm. But I didn't remember how offensive it was. And going back and reading, I'm like, man, it is just terrible. Oh man, thank God we have progressed as a society, because things were not good back then. All right, I also got this for you.
Here's your dad joke of the week.
Derek, what happened? Because we're doing Contagion tonight as our movie, I thought I would do kind of like a related joke, for you. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Derek, what happened to the guy that tried to buy toilet paper during the pandemic, but the store was all sold out?
I don't know.
He was out of luck.
Oh man, you know what would have been a better punchline? Hair lip.
They should have left her tied to the tree or something. Whatever.
Let me tell you about this Dukes of Hazzard remake I've been imagining.
What are you doing?
Some of this stuff was just too wacky for me.
I am the crotchety old guy who just hates everything new.
They're always having parties.
And then I also watched Three's Company.
This is my lot in life.
Nostalgia is a powerful drug.
It's him and so in a romantic relationship, and they open an ice cream store.
It's a dinklage.
He was always making moonshine.
He went on to do gay porn.
Oh, my.
What the hell?
All right, our movie this week is Contagion from 2011. It was your suggestion, Derek, that we do this movie. I had never even heard of this movie, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you mentioned it, I was like, I never even heard of this. But I mean, of course, I'm stuck in the 80s, so what do I know? But the one thing is, before we get into it, it was really obviously about a global pandemic, which was just, almost like foreshadowing. It's crazy going back and watching this movie now after everything that we've been through. But it also reminded me, because it's 2026 as we record this, and it's been 6 years since the pandemic. It's hard to believe it's been that long. But but the one thing that it reminded me of was how bad 2020 was. It really, really did suck. And if you remember, 6 years ago, I actually wrote a song about how bad 2020 was. So I thought that we would play it here again today. Here we go.
It started in March and then by June, I didn't know what to do, so I was drunk by noon. For vacation, we didn't know what we'd be doing, but we knew for sure we weren't going to Wuhan. On TV, things looked really bleak, but at least we all got to go up Schitt's Creek. 2020, man, it sucked plenty. 2020 cost a pretty penny. There ain't no movies, I had to get my fix. So I watched Cobra Kai on Netflix. I spent all my time on eBay getting outbid, but at least I didn't get COVID. Wearing pants wasn't really a thing when you're sitting around watching Tiger King. 2020 really was a toilet bowl, but at least they voted out that asshole. 2020, man, it sucked plenty. 2020 cost a pretty penny. 2020, man, it sucked plenty.
So that was my song that I wrote 6 years ago. It hasn't, I still can't sing. So there was that. So it was really interesting that you wanted us to watch this movie. Just some details on the movie. It came out in September the 9th, 2011. Medical thriller, disaster film, science fiction, kind of all rolled into one. 106 minutes. Steven Soderbergh was a director. It was written by Scott Burns, and the music was done by Cliff Martinez. A little bit about the story. You know, I don't want to spoil too much here, but really the premise is that there's this deadly virus, and it originates from animal and human transmission, and it spreads right across the globe. Scientists try to identify it. Governments try to maintain order. Everyday people are just struggling to survive, and misinformation spreads almost as quickly as the disease. All of which came true 9 years later, which is just crazy when you think about it. You want to just kind of take us through why you wanted to watch this movie and why you thought it was important? Obviously, I think there's a lot of reasons, but take it away, Derek.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of hit on a couple of them. When it came out, it was more of a, hey, this is what could happen. And while I think people at the time watched it and enjoyed it as a thriller, I don't think a lot of people necessarily believed that something like that could ever happen or would ever happen in that way. And one of the things that I do want to get into as we go through it tonight is sort of what did the movie get right and what did the movie get very, very wrong? In some cases, both in the good and the bad columns. So, excuse me, when COVID-19 happened and we went into lockdown, this movie sort of found a new audience. It found a resurgence, right? Everyone was at home with nothing to do, and people were like, oh my God, have you ever seen that movie Contagion? That's what this is like, or that's what this could become. And so it really found an audience because it was so reflective of what was happening to everybody, almost 10 years after the movie came out. And so part of the reason I wanted to have you watch it was, I think you had mentioned you had not seen it before. So I definitely wanted to give you something that I thought you might enjoy that we could talk about, but also I hadn't seen it in a while. And I was I think it maybe had come up in my feed, or probably because the movie The Odyssey is coming out in a couple of weeks, and Matt Damon's one of the stars of that, and he's one of the many people that star in this movie. And I think there was some discourse online about like, hey, in order to get ready for The Odyssey coming up, watch some of these Matt Damon movies. And I was like, I haven't watched Contagion in a while, so I wanted to go back and rewatch it and sort of more like almost like a checklist. Like, what did it get right? What did it accurately predict? And what things did it not accurately predict? And was it like, which things did they not lean into heavily enough, or which things did they just go so over the top in the movie that it's like, well, when this happened in real life, that was just not how it was handled, good or bad. So anyway, we'll go through it all, but yeah, I figured it was time to revisit this movie.
And I also like to take a look at this instead of looking at it back from the perspective of us having lived through a pandemic after this. I also looked at this sort of forward from, because, my perspective, I like stuff from the 70s and 80s. And one of the big things in the 70s was disaster movies.
Yes.
And so I kind of looked at this from that lens. And this movie is interesting because it has an unusual structure to it. Unlike most disaster movies, this one is different. There's no traditional hero in it. There's all these multiple interconnected storylines. It doesn't have that sort of sentimental speech, in the film. And there's no last minute sort of miraculous rescue, none of that.
No.
Really, it's almost like the system itself becomes the protagonist. Like it's very, very well done. This movie is very well done. So I liked it a lot. And the other thing
that's good.
Is this kind of film, I think, can be this type of story can be kind of hokey. It takes a really, really talented cast to pull it off, and that's exactly what they had. So
yeah, well, and again, like you said, the director Soderbergh, and he knows how to make a movie, he knows how to make a serious movie, he knows how to make a ensemble. I mean, he did the Ocean's 11's movies. You can't get that many people with those kinds of egos in a room and have them put a movie together and have it work unless the person behind the camera really knows what they're doing. And I think you're exactly right. Like, Soderbergh is one of a handful of people that could have pulled this off and actually made it work. And I believe he did.
Well, let's talk about the cast a little bit. We'll start with, obviously, one of your favorite performers of all time, your boyfriend, Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
I liked his performance. And as I was watching this, I realized he's a really talented actor. I think it gets lost sometimes how good of an actor is. I feel like this was one of his sort of quieter performances. He just represents the average person that gets caught in these sort of extraordinary circumstances. I thought he was really good in this. Really good actor to play this part. So when we look at his career, obviously, some of his highlights: Good Will Hunting, The Bourne Identity series, The Martian. You like that one, Oppenheimer.
I love The Martian. One of my all-time favorites.
And this guy has won some awards. He's been, he's definitely been critically acclaimed. He won the screenplay Oscar for Good Will Hunting, but he's been nominated multiple times, like for acting too. So in '97, he was nominated for Good Will Hunting for Best Actor, and that kind of surprised me. I was like, was he? I was surprised when I was doing the research on this. For some reason, I didn't realize he was nominated for Best Actor for that movie. Yeah. I just think of him as winning the screenplay with Ben Affleck, but he was nominated and he lost to Jack Nicholson in As Good as It Gets. So, but he was also nominated.
If you're going to lose to someone, I mean,
not bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was nominated again in 2009 for Best Supporting Actor for Invictus. He was also nominated up against Woody Harrelson in The Messenger, Christopher Plummer in The Last Station, and Stanley Tucci in Lovely Bones, but nobody was going to beat the guy that won, who was Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, no kidding.
One of the best performances I've ever seen in film, period. He was also nominated, Matt Damon was also nominated in 2015 for Best Actor, but he lost to Leo DiCaprio in The Revenant. But Matt Damon was nominated for The Martian that year.
As well he should have been. Yeah, that's an outstanding performance.
So I believe that he, watching this for the first time, he is the emotional anchor of this movie.
Yeah. Like you said, he's supposed to represent like the everyman.
Everyman.
And especially the fact that it's his wife is essentially patient zero. So he's the first to experience the losses and the hardship that come with this pandemic. I mean, it's interesting that they make part of the story is a certain percentage of the population is just naturally immune. They make him naturally immune, which I think they have to in order for him to have that through line of the movie, right? It wouldn't make sense for him to be, the spouse of patient zero and live, because obviously big part of this is they don't have a cure, they don't have a vaccine, so for him to be able to live from through the whole thing and be that close to it. You sort of have to add that element. Again, looking back, that part of it, you sort of go, well, that's convenient for the story, but it has to be. But it works. Like, I didn't get hung up on that. I think the very first time I did, I thought, is this going to be one of those things where he saves the world with his blood or something? And it's like, no, it was just convenient for the story.
I also like Kate Winslet, and I would watch her in anything. I swear, she's so talented. So many of the actors in this movie are so good. And also her character arc in this movie is pretty heartbreaking, actually.
No kidding.
Oh man, it's crazy. I liked there was one thing she said in this movie. The number of times a day that we touch our face is like 2,000 to 3,000 times a day. I was like, wow. Like, it's just, there were little things in this movie that you don't realize. And a lot of this also then came out, 9 years later or whatever with COVID. We're like, we're talking about all that stuff now. And they were talking about it in this movie then. And like you said, a lot of people maybe dismissed it. But anyway, Kate Winslet. So some of her highlights in her career, obviously Titanic, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind was big, The Reader. And so she's won an Academy Award. She's been nominated 7 times. 3 times for Best Supporting Actress, and 4 times for Best Actress. She's won once. She won for The Reader in 2008. But her first time she was nominated was Best Supporting Actress in '95 for Sense and Sensibility. And then Best Actress in Titanic, which she lost to Helen Hunt. Again, as good as it gets.
That was a bad beat. I mean,
I don't know. I think, looking at that, Helena Bonham Carter was also nominated. Julie Christie, Judi Dench, and I think Kate Winslet probably should have won that award that year.
Yeah, I think so too.
Really good. And what else? So when she won for The Reader, she was up against Anne Hathaway and Rachel Getting Married, Angelina Jolie in The Changeling, Melissa Leo, Frozen River, and Meryl Streep, Doubt. You could argue that Kate Winslet's award might be a little bit of a legacy award there, but I think she was probably the best of the bunch there.
I was going to say, I haven't seen all those movies, but I know all those movies, so yeah.
And her in this movie, like I said, like, it must have been, like, I was kind of shocked by her death because she seemed to be one of the main protagonists of the film. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my God, she's sick and she died. So it was a little shocking to me. Lawrence Fishburne, I want to mention him. I thought he was really, really good in this. He played Dr. Cheever. He's just brings this like calm leadership to the film, and I really liked the way that he sort of handles all these difficult decisions during this crisis and things like that. So really liked him in this. Probably best known for The Matrix, I would guess.
Yeah, I would think.
But also Boys in the Hood.
Yeah, that was definitely sort of his coming out party.
So he's been nominated for one Oscar. He was nominated for Best Actor in
the Tina Turner movie, wasn't it? What Love Got to Do with It?
Yeah, that was the one. Yep, as Ike Turner. Now he lost to Tom Hanks in Philadelphia. I can give him that.
I got news for you. You weren't beating Tom Hanks that year. Yeah,
but I would say that Lawrence Fishburne was snubbed in '91 for Boys in the Hood. He should have won
in '91.
He wasn't even nominated. He should have been nominated. The winner was Jack Palance for City Slickers that year.
Yeah, that was a legacy award for sure.
Yeah, and the other ones were Tommy Lee Jones in JFK, Harvey Keitel in Bugsy, Ben Kingsley in Bugsy, and Michael Lerner and Barton Fink. You're telling me...
Really? Lawrence Fishburne couldn't get into that category?
Yeah, you're telling me Lawrence Fishburne for Boys in the Hood. He was so good in that one. So, another one, Jude Law. I thought really an interesting role for him. Really against type. Very interesting character in this movie. With all the conspiracy theories and stuff. And when he wants to bring in that... Again, there's so many ties. His character arc for me was the one that hit home the most.
Yeah.
Because having lived through the pandemic that we did with COVID, this kind of guy, they were everywhere during COVID. And so he's mentioning, what was it, Forsythia or whatever it was?
Some drug or something,
drug.
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, they did that with ivermectin, I remember. I mean, even all that, they inject disinfectant in the body and all that crap.
But just the idea that once you have a platform and you have a captive audience, that you can manipulate the markets by manipulating your audience. I mean, we're seeing that every day happening in the U.S. right now at all, at the highest levels of government. We see this happening, and it's, again, the movie's 15 years old. I'm not saying it wasn't happening 15 years ago, but it just didn't seem to be as out in the open then as it is now. And to see it in this fictionalization from 15 years ago, in the moment, you sort of watched it and went, that would never happen. And now you watch it and go, I can't believe he was the only one. Like, it's amazing how your perspective changes as the world around you changes.
I thought it was interesting in the scene where he's on like the national news. And I'm like, no way. Like, they're going to bring a YouTuber onto like the national news. And then I really liked Lawrence Fishburne's line in that scene, because he's like, what he's spreading is more dangerous than the disease. And I was like, yes, like that, because we saw so much of that during COVID. All these people came out of the woodwork and started spreading all this misinformation and everything. And then as soon as he accused him of that too, Jude Law right away, he quotes something that he saw on Facebook. And I'm like, oh man, this movie predicted the future. I swear, because people were doing that too during the pandemic. So Jude Law.
Well, and I mean, sorry, I'm looking at the movie poster here, one of the movie posters, and the tagline on it says, "Nothing spreads like fear." And I mean, like that's a big part of how they were selling this movie.
Absolutely. And like I say, I think that's why Jude Law's character really hit home for me. Yeah, he's been nominated twice for Oscars. Best Supporting Actor in 1999 for The Talented Mr. Ripley, and Best Actor in 2003 for Cold Mountain. Didn't win either one of them, but he's a very good actor, very talented. Another one I want to mention is Marianne Cotillard. She was really good in this too, and she's another one, very, very talented. Nominated twice for an Oscar, and she kind of slips unnoticed in this movie in a way because the cast is just so big and talented. And then speaking of that, Bryan Cranston is another
I totally forgot he was in this.
I was like, oh my God, small role, a really memorable part. I thought he was really good. Even that Jennifer Ellie was really good. And then Gwyneth Paltrow is such an important part of this movie because her death obviously launches this. Really, really small part, but the one scene, her autopsy, man, it just, what the hell? It freaked me out. She's laying there. I don't know if it was a prosthetic or whatever, but it was just.
No, I read this. So man. They had to make a model prop of her head from another movie, right. And they used that in that scene because they had access to it. So that's why it looks so real. They had made it previously under another budget for another movie, and they were able to get a copy of it. So
it's like tongue sticking out and stuff. It was really disturbing, and they peeled it was. It really was. I was like, whoa. So that one really got me. Okay, so we should probably talk about the director, Steven Soderbergh. Really, really interesting director. If you think about his films that he's done, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Traffic, Aaron Brockovich, Ocean's 11. Okay, Magic Mike, maybe we could do without that one. But
the first one was pretty good.
His directing style is really unique. It's almost like based in realism. And he's got this really good pacing to it, and his visuals are really sort of almost understated. And he tends to also work with ensemble casts too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But he almost has like this documentary-like feel to his style. I think he was the perfect choice to direct this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so making the film, they obviously spent a lot of time and a lot of attention on scientific accuracy.
Yes. And I think that's part of the reason it does hold up is so much of what they did, even before the pandemic we lived through, we saw a lot of the things play out in real life. Like they clearly did their homework.
Yeah, like I say, it would be easy to make this movie and make it kind of hokey, but they didn't. They obviously consulted with, virologists and epidemiologists and CDC experts and things like that and WHO advisors. So I think it was probably inspired by SARS. Because that was not that long.
They reference it in the movie, so I'm sure that was definitely part of the influence of it. I'm sure.
So it was definitely, there was a lot of realism in it, and like even they're talking about things like the R numbers and contact tracing and social distancing. I was going to say they even used the term social distancing. Yeah.
I
thought that only came out during COVID, but clearly it was used in this. So all in vaccines and quarantine and all that stuff, then these all became household terms for us, in 2020. So So I liked the way that the film was laid out. It starts with day 2. And I thought that was so cool.
It's a good choice, right?
Because the outbreak has already begun, right? And that's what makes it so
and the fact that we don't know is like, sometimes in these whodunit movies, they reveal to the audience right away what's happened. And then we know things that the characters don't know. And sometimes that's an interesting way to tell a story. Like the show Columbo was like that. You always knew as the audience exactly what happened. And then you're watching along as the investigators are trying to figure out what you already know as the audience. And I thought that this worked really well, if not better, by us not knowing. So we only knew what was being presented, and we learned it at the same time as the people in the movie. And you could really feel the same sense of helplessness because they didn't know. Like, and as they made decisions about things, the first time you're watching this through, you're like, is that going to give them the answer they want? Was that right? Did they find the source? Are they going in the right direction? And it's not until the very end when they backtrack and they show you what really happened. And you're like, oh, okay. So this is one of those movies where, because you started on day 2 and you don't get the day 1 until the very, very end, watching it a second time, there's just a few little details that you know to watch for it a little more closely. And again, any good movie should have those kinds of things.
Absolutely. I was picking up on things, like right from the get-go. So even on day 2 when they start, she's in the bar. And again, our perspective is different now living through COVID. But she's in the bar, and little things like the open
peanuts.
bowl of peanuts. And I was like, oh my God, you just reach in there. Everybody reaches it. And back then, like, everybody did that. We just did. And then she hands her card over, and the credit card, she just takes the credit card, the bartender. She goes over and uses the touch tone screen or whatever to ring up the order. Like, there's so much of that. Like, we did that. We didn't even think about that stuff. And now...
And Soderbergh, sorry to cut you off, and Soderbergh as the director obviously is paying attention to that, because through the course of the movie, as people the audience, realize these people are infected or suspect, you see close-up shots of doorknobs and everyday things that people touch, a drinking fountain where it's like, this is a thing that many people are going to touch. And if this is a contaminant that can be passed by multiple people touching the same thing, like, this is now in a spot, like you said, the bowl of peanuts, a credit card machine, like hundreds of people are going to touch this over the next hour. And that's just how quickly and easily this is going to spread. And through the course of the movie, it does. And in real life, a lot of the same kinds of things happened.
And I like them, like you mentioned, how the ending of the film is they go back to day 1. Like, it just ties it all together so well, because it just shows the bat and then the pig and the chef and how he gets the pig and stuff. And he doesn't wash his hands, and he shakes her hand. Yeah. And there's no dialogue needed. It tells you.
It's just music in the back. Yeah, it's just, you get the score. Yeah.
And I thought the score was really good in this too, by the way, because it wasn't like that.
Soderbergh makes smart choices with music through most of his movies. Yeah, I find that too.
Yeah, like it wasn't. Yeah, because he did in Ocean's 11 too. His score just jumps off that movie, and in this one too, because it doesn't go overboard or get too hokey with the sort of suspense. It's just kind of there. And it just kind of builds everything. I thought the score was really, really good. I want to talk about some of the themes in this movie. There's a lot of themes in this movie going on. One theme that jumped out to me was, and we just were kind of mentioning this, society is very fragile.
Yeah.
It really, really is. It's amazing how quickly the whole world can just change, based on a couple of events. And I think it's because we have set ourselves up as humans, to be susceptible just by things like open bowls of peanuts and the fact that we just pass credit cards around, and the chef doesn't wash his hands and comes out and talks to people and gives them a handshake. And, so I thought that was a really interesting theme. And then another theme we touched base on was science versus fear.
Yeah. And
the scientists are the real heroes of this movie. Really, they're not, they're not superheroes with capes. This movie doesn't have like military, saviors or anything like that. Just researchers doing research. And at one point, the one guy's not even supposed to do the research. They tell him to kill it. He keeps doing it because he's so focused on trying to find the truth and trying to find a solution.
Well, and he understands the value of of time, right? Like I think he even says in the dialogue, he's like, if you shut me down, it's going to be X number of days and weeks before another research facility can get to where I was.
And how many people might die as a result of that, And I think that's what irks me so much too about living through the pandemic. When you see these scientists, they're just trying to find a solution. They're doing what they do. And so many people were just cutting them down with the misinformation and the disinformation that we lived through COVID. And all these scientists, they grew up as kids dreaming to become scientists, went to school, went to undergraduate school, went to graduate school, went out and did all that just so that they could, fool you. It's just so mind-boggling how people are just twisted this way. But, again, the movie touched base on that theme too, is of trust, right? Like, who do you believe? Do you believe? Well, and some people are like, well, you got to believe scientists. Like, I personally believe, and other people are like, no, I believe internet personalities, or the media or the government, right? So.
Well, and one of the themes that they do a really good job, I think, in this movie is the role of government in general. How while the employees, in this case, like the scientists, are working to do their thing, you also have at the same time the doubters, the deniers, the people that are more worried about the perception of what's happening. Like, early in it, they talk about like, who's going to pay for this? Is it coming out of your budget or our budget? We don't want to do this. We don't want to panic. We don't want. I think it's supposed to be around American Thanksgiving, and they're like, we're coming into our busiest shopping weekend. We can't tell people to not shop and not go to the stores. Like, that's crazy, and having no frame of reference. And at the time, nobody did. It's hard to convince someone potentially to do, to social distance, to not go out and all the rest of that. But it's just this unwillingness to accept that maybe the person that's giving this information is correct. Maybe the worst case scenario they're presenting could be a reality, and it needs to be taken seriously. And I think that while the movie doesn't really play that up a lot, because that's not the focus of what the movie's about, there are many scenes where that kind of thing is happening, where various government agencies, specifically government agencies, are more concerned about, the perception. What if we say this and it's wrong? What, why should we believe you? Oh, where's your proof of this and that? And sure, again, I'm like that too. I want to understand, or, not necessarily I want irrefutable proof, but it's hard to listen to someone's advice if you don't understand, what they're talking about or why they're giving you this advice. But I think this movie really doesn't play that up enough compared to what we actually ended up seeing in real life, and the number of people that were doubters. They're like, no, like you said, no, the government is telling me to do this because they want some element of control. They want me to deny me something that I should have. It's like, you can't tell me that idea of, you can't tell me what to do. You think you're better than me? I'm going to do what I want to do. You're not the boss of me. I'm the boss of me. And I felt that you did see a little bit of that in the movie, but that's one of the things that I really felt after living through the pandemic, that I didn't think they put enough of that in here. And again, at the time, they had no frame of reference. They're like, this is what we think would have happened. So,
if you think like coming up in the 80s and 90s, you had people like Rush Limbaugh telling people the 4 pillars of misinformation are academia, the media, government, and the press and stuff. And it's like they just pumped all this into people's minds for so long. And so it was ripe for all this misinformation, which is what we saw, Also, another theme I want to touch base on, globalization, I thought was really important. Things like the international travel, you start to see it. It starts here. Immediately, somebody is flying to Minneapolis. Somebody's going to Paris or here, and it just spreads around the world. Like, the world is connected, like more than we ever have been. But I think one of the biggest themes in the movie is misinformation. I really think that is the most prophetic element of the film. So I thought that was really, really important. You want to talk about any scenes? Were there any scenes in this movie that jumped out? I already mentioned the autopsy sequence, but also when Gwyneth Paltrow had her seizure, that stood out to me too. She was she really sold that too. I thought the opening montage with the infection was good. The final scene, day one, I thought was a really, really good scene. Also, one thing that I don't think we saw too much during the pandemic, at least not up here in Canada, was some of the looting that happened.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. Yeah, I did notice in this, there was a couple of scenes where there is order until there is not. And it's like, it's not even gradual. So like in the one scene where they've got the army is giving out the boxes of food, and then it seems to be a relatively orderly procedure with just a couple of people guarding the truck, if you will. And then when they find out there's none left, immediately panic. People are fighting. People are pushing. People are at each other's throats. People are getting in the truck. And it's like, and you see Matt Damon's characters like trying to help people and yell at like, there's no food there. And what are you doing stealing from people? And it's like, it devolves so quickly. And there was another scene, I think it was in the pharmacy, and they were giving booster shots or something. And you see the employee is sort of counting the number of people, and they get to a point in the line and they basically say, from this point backwards, we're not going to have enough for you. And people are like, nope. And they just immediately go forward, and they forget the line, forget the order. If I'm not getting what I feel I deserve, even though I'm not at the front of the line, I'm taking it. And just the way that both panic and greed and fear just take over so quickly, and selfishness. Yeah. And I mean, and even like earlier in the movie, you see Matt Damon sees people looting the houses on his street. And it's like, again, this state of chaos, this de-evolution of survival of the fittest. I want what I want, and if you've got what I want, I'm taking it from you. And it's amazing how quickly that happened. And I think, to your point, we didn't experience that during the pandemic, but I don't believe that it didn't happen anywhere. I'm sure it did. I don't remember hearing a lot about it, but I think it happened on a lower scale. So that selfishness was definitely there. Just things like, okay, during COVID, scientists said, okay, we're going to ask everybody to wear masks. That's going to help. Mm-hmm. And how many people were like, I'm not wearing masks. You can't tell me what to do. It's freedom. It's for freedom. Like, jeepers creepers. You're being asked to put on a mask for the betterment of society. And you can't even do that because you're so selfish, And that just came back to mind watching this movie for me. So, yeah, the other thing that I felt with when I was watching this movie was the speed with which people went from infection to visible illness to symptoms to death. Like it was very quick. And I mean, for a movie, it has to be. You can't have it like, well, the person was sick for 6 months and then died. To make this sensational movie that you're trying to make, it has to be fast. It has to be visible. It has to be in people's faces so that when actions start to happen, as a movie-going audience, you understand why people are doing what they're doing. There is this fear. There is this panic. It is literally killing people. If I don't get what I think I need, I could die. So people are motivated to behave badly for it's unfortunate. But I think with the COVID-19, we were fortunate that for the most part, it didn't progress that quickly. And most people, if you were not already had an underlying condition, even if you got sick, you didn't die. You just got sick, and then eventually you got better. Whereas if COVID had been worse and it was like, if you get it, you're gone, I think attitudes probably would have changed, and people would have been more likely to back down on those things we were just talking about. Wear a mask, because if you don't, you'll die. Oh, hey, look, 3 guys on my street died yesterday. I think it's time to put my mask on. Right.
Oh, so maybe that's a good time to ask, did it age like wine or milk? I think before COVID, viewers might have watched this movie and thought, this could never happen.
I agree. I completely agree.
And then after COVID, we realized, oh man, it can, And so I'm just wondering, so I think this movie held up very, very well. It might be,
I agree,
one of the most scientifically accurate sort of pandemic movies ever made. Not that there's a lot of them, but I mean, it's very, very good. Because like I say, like after COVID, then we're wearing masks and stuff. Like even in this movie, at points, you're watching people walking around wearing face masks, and you think, well, that's weird, And then a couple of years later, it's like it's very natural to see people do that. The vaccine rollout, I thought, was really interesting too. I thought that was really well,
like the lottery
portrayed.
system.
Yeah, and how they did that, and again,
it's very reminiscent of the Vietnam draft, right?
Yeah,
where it's like, who's getting drafted? It's by your birthdays, and it's like, oh, okay.
And things that you talked about before, like social distancing and contact tracing and stuff, we went through all that. So I mean, this aged well, and also I think, unfortunately, the conspiracy theories were a part of this movie that aged well because they came to fruition. There are more conspiracy theorists now than there ever have been. A lot of it has to do with social media, but a lot of it has to do with the pandemic. I think it did. Now there was a couple places where like you mentioned, which I thought was important, where in the movie the pandemic was worse than in reality with COVID. Yeah, like it was in the movie, it was much deadlier. It spread a lot faster, whereas COVID had lower mortality, and it took a little bit longer, to go. But
it wasn't for most people. It wasn't fatal if you got it.
Right. I mean, even though, because I think in the movie, like 2.5 million Americans died in the movie, but still 1 million Americans died from COVID. So, not good. It wasn't. Okay, so let's take a look at the box office for a minute.
Box Office Mojo.
2011, Derek, what was the number one film at the box office? Any guesses?
Had the Marvel Universe started then? They probably had. Was it the Avengers?
It was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
Oh, I knew it had to be a franchise of some sort.
Oh my God. Just get a load of this list. That followed up by Transformers Dark of the Moon, The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1, The Hangover Part 2, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides, Fast
Those are
5,
all sequels.
Cars 2, Thor, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and Captain America, the First Avenger. It's all just like franchise stuff. And like, oh my God. Anyway, so this movie was made on a budget of about $60 million, and its worldwide gross was $136 million. So
now, was that its box office gross? Because I'm sure like I said, after the pandemic, it really found an audience. So I'm guessing it made more money years later.
Definitely. I think you're right. During the pandemic, it would have been on streaming, at that, and probably was really, really popular. That's for sure. It's really rare for a movie that's like 10 years old to experience a major resurgence because of real world events.
Yeah, no kidding.
That doesn't happen very often. That makes this very unique. So the movie obviously has a bit of a legacy. It should maybe be required viewing in some public health discussions, I believe. It definitely was praised by epidemiologists and was referenced throughout COVID, that's for sure. I think this movie actually gained credibility.
I agree.
Time. Like rather than, it just, no sequels for this, obviously. There's not been any sequels or any talk of that, I don't think. But the director and the writer have discussed doing a philosophical sequel, I guess, if you would. They want to do something on like climate change or disinformation or other global threats.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So
well, that could be interesting.
So, okay. So another thing that we like to take a look at here.
Netflix. More like this.
We sometimes like to take a look at, if you enjoyed this movie, what is something that you might also enjoy? Anything else jump out to you?
Yeah, I think there's sort of two directions that you go if you're looking for more like this. If you want another movie that's about Contagion like this one, I would recommend going back to 1995, the movie Outbreak. It had Dustin Hoffman and Cuba Gooding Jr. and Rene Russo. While probably not as scientifically accurate, it's still got that idea of a pathogen that gets out and a little bit of a government conspiracy to cover it up. And again, it's more of just a thriller kind of movie. Like while the science is there, that's not the focus of the movie. The focus of the movie is more around the suspense of it all. The other angle you could take on this is if you want to look at this from the point of view of the fact that people will believe misinformation. The fear spreads more quickly than the real life. People hear what they want to hear. You think you're better than me. You can't tell me what to do. The movie Don't Look Up from 2021 is another one that's along that lines of, those that don't like what they're hearing, just simply ignore it and it'll go away, even if it really won't. So those would be my two recommendations, either Outbreak from 95 or Don't Look Up from 2021.
I'm going to go back. I would suggest The Andromeda Strain would be one that I would suggest. You made me watch 12 Monkeys on this podcast.
Yep.
I think that one would be one people might want to watch as well if they enjoyed this. And I even think The China Syndrome, and not so much because it's not about a pandemic. It's more about a systemic crisis, and the way that that's portrayed. So I think that's, another one that I would suggest. And maybe even Children of Men sort of comes to mind.
Oh yeah, it's a good one too.
Another one like I think people might like. This movie, just in retrospect, it might be one of the most realistic disaster movies ever made. When you think about the disaster movies that came out, Airport and the Towering Inferno and
Poseidon Adventure,
Adventure,
even Twister, you could classify in that category. Yeah,
this one is very realistic, and so it's almost more frightening because there's no villains.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is weird for this type of this type of film. I wonder how audiences react if this was released for the first time now.
I think having lived through a pandemic, there would be a lot of nitpicking, a lot of, well, that didn't happen and you didn't do that right. Whereas because this came out so many years before, now we look back on it and go, oh yeah, some of that was bang on the money, and other things, well, that's not how that worked out. But we can understand how you would have thought that, having never lived through it.
I would like to think that this movie is ultimately optimistic in its approach because science prevails.
It does.
So
yeah, world agencies come together. Yeah. Governments put their beefs aside for the most part to work together. There is certainly some privilege going on in this movie. You get to see that certain people that are in power or have money or connected to government get some special treatment. That's the reality of the way the world works. It sucks, but it is what it is. And they don't really play that up a huge amount in this movie, but it is in there. And I think that any sort of remake or any release of a movie of this kind that would come out now would probably lean more heavily onto that angle as a part of the story.
Yeah. Do you want to give it a rating out of 10?
Probably give it an 8 out of 10. I liked it. Yeah, I mean, it really held up. I thought the performances were good, direction's good. Like, there's a lot to like in this movie. I think 8 out of 10 all day long.
Yeah, I agree. I think 8 out of 10 is the right way to do it. So on that note, what do you say that we have some
fun with Caveman?
All right, it's time for another version of this game. Are you ready?
I'd like to know where you got the notion. Rock the quote. Rock the quote. Rock the quote. Rock the quote. Rock the quote.
All right, Derek, we're going to play a game of Rock the Quote, obviously, with some terrible singing to bring us in. So we're going to talk about movie quotes. I'm just going to give you some trivia, okay? You got to answer these questions on famous movie quotes. You ready?
Okay, I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
You're going to do so well. Okay. What movie character famously says, "Here's looking at you, kid," in the 1942 film Casablanca?
Do you want, that was Humphrey Bogart. Do you know his character name?
I'll give it to you.
Was
I was looking
Sam
for
something?
It was Rick Blaine. Rick Blaine.
Rick.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, Sam was a piano player.
In The Godfather, which character says, "I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse"? Character name.
I think it might have been uttered by a couple, but Michael Corleone was definitely one of them.
No, it was
Vito.
Sonny? It was Vito Corleone. Vito Corleone, okay. In Blade Runner, this one's right up your alley. You love
I'm
this
going to
movie,
get this
Blade
for sure.
Runner, okay?
I'm getting this. Yeah.
All right. In Blade Runner, Roy Batty delivers a poetic monologue. Complete the missing word in this quote. "All those moments will be lost in time, like blank in the rain."
Tears in Rain.
Yes. Actually, you're right. It's in rain, not in the rain. So you even know better than me. Okay, which character delivers the famous opening monologue about the nature of tipping? Concluding with, quote, I don't tip because society says I have to. In 1992's Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, it was Steve Buscemi. He's Mr. Pink.
Yeah. Very good. All right, we're going to go way back. In Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard from 1950, aging silent film star Norma Desmond snaps back at a writer who says that she used to be big. What was her iconic response?
I've never seen the movie. I have no idea.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small. Very famous quote.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In Silence of the Lambs from 1991, Hannibal Lecter chillingly describes eating the liver of a census taker. What did he pair it with?
Oh, it was fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Very good. All right. The dystopian satire Network from 1976. It features a news anchor who breaks down on live television. Complete his famous rallying cry quote. He says, I'm as mad as hell and blank.
I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yes. Oh, you're going to get this one too from 1998. The Big Lebowski. You love that movie.
Okay.
The dude gets incredibly defensive when his beloved rug is ruined. Mm-hmm. What specific power does he claim that the rug had in a quote?
It really tied the room together.
Yes. All right, another one you're going to get because it's like your favorite movie of all time, Pulp Fiction.
Oh, yeah, okay.
All right, Jules Winfield, Samuel L. Jackson's character. He recites a modified biblical passage before executing his targets. Which book of the Bible does he claim?
Oh, yeah. From? It was Ezekiel 25:17.
I just wanted the book. I didn't even need the
Path of the Righteous Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. In Monty Python and the Holy Grail from back in 1935.
Yep.
King Arthur engages in a duel with the Black Knight. After having both of his arms severed, how does the Black Knight dismiss his injuries?
Oh, doesn't he say it's just a flesh wound?
Yes. I would have also accepted 'tis but a scratch.
'Tis but a scratch, yeah.
All right, and the last one. In Back to the Future, Doc Brown delivers the ultimate final line of the movie before launching the DeLorean into the future. What is his final line in the film?
Oh, yeah. Doesn't he say, like, well, the final line is roads, we don't need roads. Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, you got it. Okay. Roads.
Where we're going, we don't need
roads. All right, very good. Yeah. You did very well. See, I knew you would do good.
Well, the movies I saw, I did well, but yeah.
All right, so next time that we're back, we'll have a topic. So you and I will discuss what that will be, and we'll figure out what our topic will be. But we're going to miss next week because I'm on holidays now. We're in the middle of summer. We got to take some time off.
Well, you're a teacher. You get the summer off. We got to give you some time off.
Spend some time with my family for once or twice. So we'll do that, but we'll come back and we'll do a topic next time we're out. Like I say, you and I will figure out what that will be. But until then, I'm Chris McBrien on behalf of myself and Derek Myers. Thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World, the pop culture podcast for the generations.
Thanks for listening to Pop Goes Your World. You can contact Chris and Derek at popgoesyourworld.com. Please take a minute and review the podcast on iTunes or wherever you download and listen to the show.